Okay, so we are now recording. All right, so the purpose of our meeting is to inform that, through the Every Student Succeeds Act, that we are providing a Title I meeting so that we can explain and discuss the Title I programs, the parents' rights, and other school requirements. And then also, too, that families are encouraged to ask questions and make suggestions to help us improve our Title I program. So what is Title I? Title I is a federal law that grants money to select schools to help them support students to meet their educational goals, provide staff and professional development, and support school and parent partnerships. So a school becomes a Title I school based on the percent of families that are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. And so the school district is who determines that. And in our case, at an elementary school, you have to have at least 70%. Well, last school year, we had exactly 70%. So we are very close to not being a Title I school. So you'll hear from me a lot as we get closer to the deadline, which is in February, where the district takes a snapshot of this year's free and reduced lunch rate, and that's how they determine next year's Title I school. So I really like to encourage our families to apply who haven't yet, because you just don't know if there's a qualification that you have. You don't have to use it. Your child doesn't have to eat lunch at school and use it. It's just an eligibility. So for our school, it means that we have more money, and we can take this money and use it to concentrate it on helping to improve our school and the instruction for students, professional development, family engagement, and also that parents and families have rights to be informed and involved. And these are all things down here that parents have the right to. And throughout the year so far, you've received different things through emails or phone messages from me to share with you this information. So at a Title I school, everybody benefits. It's not just the 70% of students whose family is eligible. The whole entire school benefits, and that's really, really important for our school to continue to be Title I if our percentage equals that. So for our school, one of the main focal points for Title I is our school improvement plan. And so I know this might be a little hard to see, but for our area of focus, a key point here that I want to make is that we are looking to focus on math achievement. And that's because ever since what we call fiscal year 2018, we have seen a decline in our math achievement, especially last school year due to COVID-19 and so many students being at home, especially in our older grades last year. A lot of the students stayed home for safety, and we did see that there was a decline. And then last year, our school scored 55%, and that's a decline all the way from 79% 3 years ago. So we definitely need to focus on that. And then also, too, we look at the learning gains of our lowest 25% students. So you take all the students who took the FSA the year before, and you take the lowest quarter of them, and those students have to make a gain in order for your school to have points that go towards being A-rated, B-rated, and so on. And so from FY18, which was 75% right here, last year we ended up scoring 50%. So again, we see a 25% decrease. Yes, COVID was a major factor last year, but we still need to focus on that. So those are the two areas for us. And then our measurable outcomes is that we want to increase our achievement from 55 to 62. I know we can get higher than 62. Before COVID we were, but we have to be sure that our goals, our achievement, does reflect COVID. That last year, this might take more than 1 year to get some of our students caught up. So that's really, really important. And then we have our lowest 25%, just like our achievement, we want to go to 62%. So we really want to be sure that that is a goal that we hit. And the reason why we hit 62% as well is because that is the A-rated standard. You have to be 62% in order to earn your letter grade as a school. And then also too, we have subgroups. Oh, Mr. Balch. Hello. Over here we have a sign-in sheet, and the agendas are right here.
No, I put it over.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Perfect. Okay.
You were right.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. So we also have our subgroups, which we always look at our different subgroups of students by demographics, by students with disabilities, other subgroups. We also want to be sure that each of these subgroups hit the minimum of 62%. So with that then comes our tool to work on that, and that is our school-wide plan. So our school-wide plan does focus on other things, because just because we're focusing on math doesn't mean we can ignore reading and writing. But we also have to be sure that we use our school-wide plan to hit math and make that very important. So the first thing I want to talk about are our Title I positions. Last year, we did have a full-time math science resource teacher that was funded through Title I. This year, though, we ended up getting a reading resource teacher because we're using the math science resource teacher in a different position, but the students are still seeing that person, especially for fine arts, what we call our STEM lab. So we didn't lose that person. We are just keeping them through a different way. So what we did was we hired a reading resource teacher, because we, especially in the early grades, need to provide students with additional reading interventions to help them get caught up and to be on grade level. Because we know reading is the key indicator of success in all subjects. Also, we have academic tutors, and this is one of our strategies for our school improvement plan, is to have an academic tutor for math. So at this time, we are looking to hire an academic math tutor, because we took our academic math tutor and we offered her a job in our newly opened 4th grade class, because our 4th grade grew tremendously over the summer, and the district gave us a new position to make the classes smaller. So I took someone who we already had on campus who has experience, but now that means though that our tutor position is open. So we are looking at some options, but we really need to be sure that, especially in math, we provide our students with those tutoring opportunities because they got behind last year. This year, if they get sick or someone in their house gets sick, they have to stay home, and that could be time that they're losing. So there's a lot of factors there, and math has been significantly impacted by COVID. For supplies, we did invest in Benchmark literacy resources. Benchmark is our new kindergarten through second grade reading program. So we've invested in resources for those teachers. We use communication folders, and we get kindergarten readiness materials for kindergarten roundup. And we also have technology programs like iReady Toolbox, which gives teachers iReady lessons that they can use with the students outside of the computer. We use top score writing in our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then we also use a program called Vocabulary, which helps to build vocabulary development, but in fun ways and games. Like they use raps, they use poems, they use videos. So it really helps the students to learn about the content in science, math, reading, history, but through fun and engaging ways. And then professional development, we have money for teachers to plan collaboratively. That's key because they spend so much time outside of school planning. We want to, be sure that we give them that incentive to do that, but also, give them the compensation for that. Our kindergarten through second grade teachers are teaching a brand new reading curriculum, and that has taken a lot of extra time this year in planning. And then when we have them, substitutes for common planning and data chats. So a teacher a sub would go around and cover while, we can meet with the teachers to talk about student progress and talk about resources that we can use. So I want to go ahead and take a quick break there. Is there anybody who's on our Google Meet or anyone here tonight who has any additional ideas or thoughts regarding, our Title I money that we spend and our focus, academically that I just presented? If you do, that's one, part of about tonight. So I definitely encourage you, to share. Okay, so yeah, Ms. Joseph.
The tutor is only for during the school time or after school time?
So we have a separate set of money that is coming from the federal government for COVID relief, and that money has been given to us for tutoring by teachers. So if, in 5th grade, Miss Bryant wants to do math tutoring, I can pay her out of that fund. So that means we don't use Title I money for that. Yeah, we are planning on doing that. We typically start that in the middle of the year. Once we have a better idea of how students are progressing, then the teachers like to do that. Whereas the tutor during the day, we try to provide more immediate catch up on what they're working on now. It's hard for the teachers to do that. The teachers like to be able to go backwards and review and hit things that they've learned before. And that's where they'll do that before and after school.
Don't they have a teacher that could help the kids write better?
Yeah, so for writing in grades 3, 4, and 5, we do use top score writing, which is a great resource for our students, because what it does is it provides them with the opportunity to learn how to write using their reading texts. So when you write, for example, when you write a opinion essay, it's not just, well, what's your opinion on, should there be vending machines in school for students? It's not just coming from your own experience, but you're reading articles, and you have to take information from those articles to defend and support your opinion. That's what top score writing does really well. The teachers also teach students basic writing skills, and they work on like their grammar and their editing, but we really use top score writing to take the reading aspect and to take sources and use those sources to support their writing. That's very focused on, college preparation, getting ready for the SAT and things like that in high school as well. So that's something that they do. Regarding like remediation and tutoring for writing, some of our writing teachers might offer tutoring using the same type of funding that we have for the math and reading as well.
They do like a writing boot camp.
A writing boot camp, yep.
Sometimes it's just like a shorter. They'll do it like a few days of it or something. Every once in a while they'll do like a writing boot camp.
I think they might have done one virtually last year as well, before. But that's definitely something that they work on for sure.
I guys see my son pattern. He's in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
His reading's terrible. His pattern is, I'm not sure if I have to get on a private tutor, because I see this, and I emailed this teacher, and I actually just have a meeting, but she just sent me a timeline. I told her the writing is the same writing. It's not, of his grade level. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I need to get a separate private tutor to do one-on-one to get better.
Well, the reading intervention team that we have also supports students. Reading is 2.5 hours of reading a day in 5th grade, for example. There's 2.5 hours of reading and writing a day. 2 hours of it is the reading and the writing, and there is time built in for teachers to take the 5th grade standards and to do small groups to help those students. Then there's a 30-minute time every day that we call III, immediate intensive intervention. And that's where any child who's below grade level in reading gets that intervention. And it could be the teacher, or it could be a different teacher, like our reading resource teacher, or an ESE teacher, an ESOL teacher if the child is an English language learner, but they're getting an intervention to support them at their level. And that's where they work, sometimes below their level, but they're working as a way to try to grow. When you teach the standards, though, you're teaching them, but then our teachers differentiate to try and help the students to learn the standards and read at a high level. Because at the end of the year, they have to take that grade level's test. And eventually, they're going to have to take the SAT or ACT, for college entrance. So we're trying to support them at their level with basic reading skills, but then when it comes to comprehension skills especially, we have to push them up to the grade level where they are. So next is parent and family engagement, and research shows that all these things here improve and are more likely to happen, when there's parent and family engagement. So that's why it's so important that Title I has this as one of its main pillars. And so the parent and family engagement plan, we call it PFIP. It describes how we as a school involve families in a child's education. It does have written it's written with the input. So tonight we'll have the opportunity to talk a little bit, but also in the spring, we will get our school advisory council involved with that. And then we share it with our school advisory council, like I mentioned, and then we post it on our school website. And this was shared out via email as well, I believe about a week or two ago. And so when we look at our parent and family engagement plan, here are some of the items that we like to highlight. We do have our mission of our parent and family engagement plan. We inform parents about curriculum assessment, the progress of their child, at least twice a year. Now we're doing a lot of stuff virtually, and we have found that it has given parents more access to participate. And then we use a variety of communication, whether it be flyers or the communication folders or the marquee out there. And then we also are providing meetings, trainings, and activities and events virtually as well. Or like tonight, we have a virtual option. We do have academic parent-family trainings. So the first one we're planning is next month in November. We're going to do our annual family game night. And we focus on families working together to build their family team. But the games and activities are targeted towards academic needs. And there's two areas that we're going to focus on this year. One is going to be on math facts in the upper grades, multiplication, division especially, and science vocabulary is the other one. Those are two things that at home we can train and support families with. Well, how can you help your child become more fluent at memorizing their math facts? How can they learn science vocabulary outside of school? So we're excited about that. In January, we have a literacy event, and we are going to focus on supporting families with learning about the new benchmark literacy curriculum. It's important because next year, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are going to use the curriculum. And so we're going to do a school-wide focus on that so that our current K-2 parents get training and support on how they can help their children at home with this new curriculum, and then our 3 through 5 families get like a preview. And then STEM night in February, and we're planning on all of these being virtual just to be safe and proactive, not knowing what January, February will look like. So in February, we're going to do a STEM night where we'll put together STEM activities, and the kids can take the materials home, and the families can do the activities virtually from home. And those activities will focus on grade level standards and are examples of activities that families can do together. So those are our 3 parent-family trainings that we're going to have. And so this is an example of our parent-family engagement plan. I encourage everyone to go on our school website or go back to the email that I sent to share that, and you'll see that there's a section for Title I that's under the Students and Families section of our school website. And I will go ahead and I'll put the link to our school website in the chat, just so that we, anyone at home has that. Okay. So these are examples, or this is the actual PFIP as we call it. So I wanted to display this for you all tonight, but we did provide that as an option. And anyone here tonight, if you would like a copy, I have one, for you on the way out.
Also in multiple languages.
In multiple languages, yeah, as well. So we have it in Spanish, which is our main written language that we share. All right. So any feedback on the parent-family engagement plan, some of the things that we spoke about in the last several minutes? Even at home, any feedback that you want to share, you can use the chat, or if you don't mind being on recording, you can always unmute. But any feedback, please let us know. That is one of the main purposes of tonight. Okay, the next thing is the school parent compact, and this was something else that came out this year, and it's typically kept in the back of your child's blue folder. And this is important because it is that agreement between the school, the student, and the family. And it puts out their responsibilities, in order to build that partnership. And so here is what that looks like. And again, you'll find it on our school website under the Title I information, but it was also sent home. Here it has what the family agrees to, what the school agrees to, and then what the student agrees to. Also along with that is the back page, which has the additional student items, plus, here where, I signed it in advance, and then the teacher, the student, and the parent would sign it. And we keep that all year in that place that is consistent and easily for us to be able to speak to students about their responsibility. If they aren't fulfilling it later in the year, we can reference that. If families and teachers sit down together, they can talk about, this is what the students are responsible for, and this is what we need them to be working on to meet their goals. So it's a great document. And based on just in general, is there anything that any of you tonight would like to make as suggestions for next year's compact? Well,
No, thank you.
Okay, sure, no problem. That offer is always there, and again, at the end of the year, typically in May, we will have a more formal process to gather input through our school advisory council. So definitely encourage everyone, tonight to be welcome. Typically, we meet now at 5 o'clock on the first Wednesday, and so, but tonight we canceled the school advisory council meeting so that we could hold this meeting tonight. And we have our parents' right to know. This was something that we shared, that parents have the right to know about the professional qualifications of their child's teacher. If a non-teacher personnel is providing instruction, and if so, then what is their professional qualifications? And then families must be told if their child is taught for 4 or more weeks by a teacher who does not meet the certification requirements. And then also they must be told how their child has performed on tests like the FSA, for example. So those are what the parents' rights to know are at a Title I school. Migrant education. So this is some information that, migrant education does fall within this umbrella of Title I. And if we do have any families that, would qualify for migrant education, they do help to support them to overcome things like breaks in schooling. If the family travels and is migrant from season to season, there might be breaks in schooling. A lot of times there's cultural, language barriers, social isolation, all those types of things. Also, students experiencing homelessness. And this is something that, sometimes is a misconception that, someone, in order to be homeless, you're, more stereotypically, living, somewhere where there's no shelter, or you're living in a shelter. But oftentimes homelessness can be simply that you have lost your residence and now you're living with a family member or a friend. It's temporary, until you find a place, you get back on your feet again. Oftentimes in today's environment, in today's economy, with rent being so high and the housing market being so competitive, that's happening. And it's a real situation. So it's not always just the first three. A lot of times, and more commonly, it's the fourth bullet point up here. Yes.
Was the parent during COVID, and they were grandparents.
Yes.
It's hard issue.
Yeah, for sure. So anyone who's experiencing homelessness, there is a program called the McKinney-Vento program, and that's something that as a school, we always at the beginning of the year, when we send out the registration forms, there's always a residency questionnaire in there, because we want to know, for that moment or that school year, has the residency changed? And if so, we want to support those families. So like I mentioned, these are some of the things that can be provided. Deciding on which school would be best for the child. Sometimes, the family is living temporarily in a different part of the county, but that child can stay here as their school of origin before homelessness happened, as a protection to that child. Providing supplies, school uniforms, setting up transportation for them, again, community support. And then that is it. So again, would like to ask, is there any questions tonight, or any feedback regarding our Title I program, our family involvement activities? There will be an evaluation, so we'll send it to those of you in attendance. If you would like to complete that, once it's ready, we'll send that out to you. Any questions or any
I'm
comments?
curious about the Title I positions. Is that considered part of your faculty, or are they totally separate?
They are.
Funded separately?
Yeah, they are. The difference is that their funding is dependent upon Title I,
Right.
and as a school, year to year is how you earn your status. So, for example, if we have a teacher on campus who's a Title I teacher, as a principal, you always have to be, I guess weary is the best word, forward thinking. You have to always be careful that you are ready for the next year to not be Title I. And, what impact does that have if that person, then doesn't have a funded position?
I mean, that's what I wondered, how you typically plan for that if you've got a temporary position, a year position, but still nonetheless temporary. And would you get the same one year to year necessarily?
You hope it works out for the best.
It's playing chess. It's thinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm
thinking moves ahead, and that's something that we do. Is we think about, okay, this year we have a plan, but how does this year's plan affect next year? If this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, this person leaves, this person retires. So we're always thinking about those things. But yes, the Title I funded positions, not the tutors. The tutors are considered temporary.
Okay.
The reading resource teacher that we have, though, is considered a full-time teaching position.
Okay.
And but those positions typically don't exist in the district unless it's a Title I position. So a school who's not Title I, you typically won't find a reading resource teacher on their campus, because that position is expensive.
Kind of gives you one extra piece to move, is what you're saying. And
correct. So if we're not Title I next year, that reading resource teacher, if they are senior in their years of experience, they stay. And if we don't gain more positions, the person who is lowest would get access to a different school. So that's how it works. So you do have to kind of think, from year to year. But
You guys
also,
are borderline, right?
we're 70% correct.
Yeah, right, that's right at where you are.
Yes, so even more importantly for me, I have to always think about, 1 year at a time. I have to think about a lot of different factors like that. Any other questions or any input?
The school, the teachers all have degrees, right?
Correct.
Because they're just the charter school, then all of them do it, right?
No, yeah, we don't have anybody on our staff who is either a long-term substitute, or is, someone without a degree. Everyone on our staff has at least a temporary teaching certificate, meaning that they've been qualified through the state of Florida. The only time that we would have someone else would be like if a teacher goes out on a leave of absence, then we can hire what's called a long-term substitute. It would be a substitute teacher who's just performing that job daily instead of like 1 day at a time, or like 1 day here and then they don't come back for, they're all over the place every week. When that happens, then as part of the parent's right to know is I have to provide written notice that if the child is being provided instruction by that person for 4 weeks or more, that's my obligation to notify the families. I typically do that though sooner than 4 weeks, if I know that it's going to be a long-term position. If it's that the teacher had surgery and they're out for a week, no. But if I know that this is going to be something that is more to it, like a maternity leave of absence, then yes, I don't wait the 4 weeks. But, I also tap in my resources. So some things that we've done creatively in the past is if I can't find a teacher who is certified who wants to work for 3 months, 4 months, what I'll do is I'll get creative and I'll take a regular teacher and move them in and then use a substitute in that person's position. I've done that a couple of times because that's a classroom. That's a core 6 hours a day teaching position. If I can, I'll take a certified teacher from somewhere else and then use a substitute in a different position on campus. That is critical, but maybe not as critical for that moment in time for those children who are in the classroom. Yeah. It's always a challenge. The human resources part of a school is always a challenge, and now more than ever with the district having challenges with substitutes, but also with different vacancies and leaves of absences due to COVID. Some teachers have taken long leaves of absence, or some teachers have retired early. Things have happened with health. So, it is a challenge. Our school, though, fortunately, we have 0 vacancies right now. And like I mentioned earlier, every teacher on campus has their Florida certificate. Okay, any other questions or anything for tonight? All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and end our recording, and I definitely thank all of you. And I will be sending out an evaluation here, shortly, that you guys can fill out. Just answering some questions about how informational was everything tonight, and anything that you might want in the future or improve in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and that will be it for tonight. So thank you, everybody. Thank
I
you.
was thinking, but tonight meeting off, and I said I better check, because I still had it on my calendar. But this is,
Yeah, we
do you send a link out or something for this one, or was that just?